All right, today we are diving into a book with a title that you gotta admit really makes you stop and think. Addiction is the Cure to Addiction. It's this pretty radical idea for recovery that says don't get rid of your intensity, just point it in a new direction. So let's get into it. Right from the jump, the author hits us with this powerful reframe. I mean, forget everything you've ever heard about addiction being some kind of character flaw or weakness. This book argues it's actually the exact opposite. And that idea leads us to the book's central metaphor, which is brilliant: the Ferrari in the mud. So, picture this: a super high performance engine, just unbelievably powerful and intense. But now, imagine it's just stuck, spinning its wheels, going nowhere. That's how the book sees addiction. So, you know the common view, right? Addiction means you're weak, you're broken, you don't have willpower. But this book just completely flips that script. It says, no, what you have is intensity. You're a high-powered machine, and your strength is just aimed at the wrong thing. And this is the absolute core of the issue. All that power, that amazing Ferrari engine, it literally has nowhere to go. So it's just spinning its wheels, burning itself out, and honestly, just making a huge mess. Okay, so if the engine isn't the problem, what's the solution? Well, it's all about finding a highway for that Ferrari. This is what the author calls the soul's rescue. For the author, his first real highway was the piano. He talks about sitting down as a kid, and his spirit just recognized it. It just knew this was what he was made to do. It wasn't just a hobby, you know? It was a path that was complicated enough to actually handle all of his intensity, and it demanded his complete focus. This was his first real taste of what he calls a flow state. And this really highlights a fundamental clash here. Addiction, it thrives on escape, right? On checking out, on being absent. But a real purpose, whether it's playing music or writing code, it demands your presence. It forces you to actually show up. And this leads to a really practical tool, something the author calls your spiritual weapon against addiction, the flow state. So what is this flow state? Well, it's that moment of total immersion where the rest of the world just kind of melts away. You know the feeling. Think of an artist just lost in their painting or a developer totally in the zone with their code. And when you're in this state, distractions just fade. Cravings get weaker. Time seems to disappear. You're creating this internal environment where addiction, well, it just can't survive. It can't breathe in there. And this is such a crucial point. A purpose that's powerful enough doesn't just, coexist with addiction. It actually consumes it. It displaces that old destructive obsession with a new, productive one. So finding that highway, that purpose, that's step one. That's the soul's rescue. But how does that actually change you physically? Well, that's where we go from the soul's rescue to the brain's. We're talking about literally rewiring your neural pathways. See, every addiction runs on a really predictable loop. You've got a trigger, then an action, and finally a reward. And your brain gets hardwired to just repeat that cycle over and over again. But, and this is the amazing part, you can build a new loop. After the author's music career came to an end, he found his next highway in coding. The trigger became a bug, or a complex problem. The action was to write code, to test it, to learn. And the reward? That incredible feeling of satisfaction when it finally works. That tech pivot created a powerful, constructive loop to replace the old destructive one. This all leads us to a really radical idea, that the very personality traits that fuel addiction are actually superpowers in disguise. Just check this out. That obsessive trait, it can be redeemed. Instead of chasing a substance, you're chasing a solution. That intense focus, instead of being fixated on the next high, it gets channeled into mastering a skill. And all that all-night energy, instead of fueling destructive habits, it fuels finishing a project. See? It's all about redirection, not getting rid of the trait itself. This quote really just sums the whole thing up perfectly. That powerful engine inside of you was never, ever the problem. The only thing that needs to change is which way it's pointed. So, what does this all boil down to? It's a simple but really profound principle that the author calls the law of displacement. Think about it like this, right? You can't shovel darkness out of a room. It's impossible. The only way you can get rid of darkness is to flip on a light. You don't fight emptiness with more emptiness. You fight it by filling that space with something better, something brighter. And that right there is the final crucial takeaway. Real, true recovery isn't about creating a void where the addiction used to be. It's about building a life that is so full of purpose and meaning that there's simply no room left for the old darkness to creep back in. So we'll leave you with this question to think about. You've got the engine, you have the power. The only question is, where's your highway?